Did you know that some of Silicon Valley's most resilient startups owe their success to a 2,000-year-old philosophy? Surprising, isn't it? After all, we're talking about the heart of technological innovation, where the future is created daily. But interestingly, the minds behind these breakthroughs are looking to the past for wisdom. And this ancient philosophy? It's Stoicism. At the core of this movement lies a simple truth. The business world, especially in Silicon Valley, is an arena of uncertainty. Founders face constant challenges, risky decisions, and pressures that often feel overwhelming. Yet, in this chaotic setting, Stoic wisdom emerges as an indispensable tool. Imagine leaders who remain unshaken in the face of adversity, who face failures with composure, and who transform every obstacle into an opportunity for growth. These leaders are using Stoic principles as a modern guide for resilience and mental clarity. Stoicism is a practical philosophy built to help us navigate life's turbulence. And what could be more turbulent than leading a startup? In Silicon Valley's unpredictable environment, where failure always seems to loom, entrepreneurs have realized that focusing on what's within their control while accepting what they cannot change is essential for maintaining resilience and clarity. To understand the impact of this philosophy on startups, let's dive into the powerful connection between Stoicism and innovation. Truth is that Stoicism goes beyond inspirational quotes or abstract ideas. It translates into practical actions and attitudes that shape not only how founders tackle challenges, but also how they build their companies. It's about learning to remain unshaken in chaos, cultivating patience in a world that demands speed, and turning pressure into high-quality performance. The story of how a 2,000-year-old philosophy found a home at the center of modern innovation is fascinating. But more than that, it offers valuable lessons. It's not just about learning from the past. It's about applying that wisdom to shape the future. In this context, Stoicism emerges as a true competitive advantage. The question is, what can you learn from this? Maybe you're not building a billion-dollar startup, but the lessons applied by these visionaries can transform the way you approach your own challenges. And if the world's greatest visionaries can look to the past to create a better future, why shouldn't you? Let's explore together how these principles can shape not just businesses but also stronger, more balanced mindsets geared toward success. Imagine Silicon Valley, not the version you see in TV shows, filled with sleek offices and enthusiastic pitches, but what happens behind closed doors. Startup founders face financial spreadsheets that don't add up, investors demanding immediate answers, and the constant threat that if the next big idea doesn't work, everything could fall apart. This is the real battlefield of innovation, a place where ambitious dreams collide with the harsh reality of uncertainty. In Silicon Valley, financial instability is a constant. Each investment round brings pressure and higher expectations, leaving little margin for mistakes. Then comes the relentless drive for innovation. In Silicon Valley, what is revolutionary today may be obsolete tomorrow. Founders aren't just competing with other companies, they're racing against time. In an environment where everything is in constant flux, innovation requires adaptability and foresight. Staying relevant means navigating a landscape where every misstep could be exploited by the competition, demanding both creativity and resilience. How do you stay relevant when every misstep can be exploited by the competition? It's a high-stakes game that demands not just creativity but immense emotional resilience. But perhaps the greatest enemy of all is the fear of failure. It's a specter that looms over every meeting, every decision, and every product launch. Ironically, failure isn't some distant possibility in Silicon Valley. It's almost a certainty. Most startups don't survive their first year. And knowing this adds even more weight to the shoulders of those leading the charge. How do you keep moving forward when failure feels inevitable? This is where a Stoic concept known as amor fati comes in. Translated as love of fate, it teaches us to accept and even embrace whatever happens whether good or bad. In Silicon Valley's unpredictable environment, Amor Fati can be transformative. It's not about resignation, but about embracing every challenge, every twist, as part of the process. Think about this. Instead of fearing failure, what if you saw it as a learning opportunity? Every mistake, every setback, as a necessary step toward growth? That's the power of Amor Fati. It doesn't eliminate problems, but shifts your perspective. What once seemed like an insurmountable barrier becomes an invitation to evolve. Picture a founder who, instead of freezing in the face of a tough decision, chooses to approach the challenge with curiosity. They don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What can I learn from this?" This mindset is what separates those who merely survive from those who thrive, even amid chaos. In Silicon Valley, Amor Fati is more than an ancient philosophy, it's a practical tool. Accepting what's beyond your control, such as market volatility, frees up energy to focus on what matters: leadership, innovation, and deliberate decisions. This landscape of uncertainties may seem overwhelming at first glance, but it's also where the greatest stories of resilience and success are created. In the end, what determines the outcome isn't the challenges themselves, but how each founder chooses to face them. And maybe, just maybe, a bit of Stoic wisdom is exactly what they need to turn chaos into triumph. Nexus AI, led by Emma Carter, promised to revolutionize healthcare with AI for early diagnostics. Yet, like many startups, it encountered unexpected challenges along the way. The journey of Nexus AI began with strong investor enthusiasm, securing an initial funding round that provided the necessary foundation for its first steps. However, when the time came to test its systems with hospitals, problems started to arise. The technology, which seemed promising in the lab, faced technical obstacles in real-world scenarios. Worse still, a larger competitor launched a similar solution, diverting much of the market's attention. External pressures mounted, and Emma's team felt the weight of high expectations. It was during this period that Emma, a devoted Stoicism enthusiast, turned to its philosophical principles to guide her leadership. The first lesson she applied was the dichotomy of control. Sitting in her meeting room after receiving news that the second round of funding was in jeopardy, Emma knew she had two options: react with despair or focus on what was within her power. She chose the latter. Emma gathered her team and directed them to list actionable steps they could take: fine-tuning the AI model, seeking partnerships, and refining the pitch for investors. Everything beyond their control, like the competition or market dynamics, was set aside, freeing up energy for clearer and more assertive decisions. This brought the team a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. In practice, this approach changed everything. To prepare for high-pressure situations, Emma turned to a Stoic practice known as premeditatio malorum, or the anticipation of troubles. This simple exercise can be a game-changer during critical moments, not to foster pessimism, but to be emotionally prepared and avoid surprises. When investors expressed doubts about Nexus AI's future, Emma remained composed and presented a solid plan to mitigate risks. Her calm demeanor impressed investors, even those who ultimately chose not to continue funding. The biggest challenge for Nexus AI was deciding whether to pivot toward a commercial application or stick with the original model. Guided by Amor Fati, Emma chose to evolve, adapting the technology for health insurance companies and ensuring the startup's viability. This strategic pivot saved the company. Within months, Nexus AI secured partnerships with major insurers, providing the financial stability needed to explore new areas of innovation. What initially seemed like a setback became a turning point. Stoicism didn't just help with strategic decisions, it also shaped Nexus AI's culture. Emma encouraged her team to adopt Stoic practices like daily reflection, where each member reviewed their accomplishments and identified areas for improvement without blaming themselves for what was beyond their control. These small changes fostered a more resilient environment where failure wasn't feared but embraced as part of the growth process. The journey of Nexus AI shows how Stoic principles, when applied with clarity, can turn chaos into triumph. Now, consider how these same tools can help you tackle your challenges with confidence. When asked about the secret to her resilience, Emma said, "I don't control the market, the investors, or the competition, but I control how I react to them. And that, in the end, makes all the difference." Imagine this. You're sitting in a meeting room, surrounded by investors. The tension is palpable. Last quarter's numbers weren't as expected, and you know the tough questions are coming. The attentive gaze of everyone around the table seems to amplify the pressure. Now ask yourself, how do you respond? Do you let the nerves take over your words and actions, or do you face the moment with calm and confidence? This is where Stoic tools can change the game. The dichotomy of control teaches us to separate what is within our domain, like preparation and communication, from what we cannot influence, such as the investor's reactions. This practice allows you to channel your energy toward actions that truly matter. This distinction is liberating because it lifts the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. Before high-pressure situations, list what's under your control, like the quality of your presentation or your ability to listen. Recognizing the limits of your influence brings focus and tranquility. Accepting this isn't about giving up, but about redirecting your energy to where it makes a real difference. Now let's add another Stoic practice to your toolkit: negative visualization. Before important events, such as a pitch to investors or a product launch, imagine the most challenging scenarios that could occur. Tough questions, unexpected objections, even outright rejections. This isn't pessimism but preparation. By visualizing difficulties, you get accustomed to the idea of facing them, reducing the emotional impact if they actually happen. Picture this exercise. Close your eyes and see yourself walking into the meeting room. An investor makes a harsh critique of your numbers. Another questions the viability of your business model. How do you respond? Take a deep breath and visualize yourself answering calmly, without impulsive reactions. This mental practice trains your emotional resilience, making it easier to remain composed in real-life situations. In addition to preparing for the unexpected, another crucial Stoic practice is daily reflection. This tool helps consolidate learnings and maintain focus on what matters. Ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? And most importantly, what was under my control? This practice isn't about self-blame, but about growth. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." For entrepreneurs, this means viewing each day as an opportunity to improve, making small adjustments over time. Moreover, a Stoic perspective can be transformative. In moments of crisis, it's easy to feel as though the weight of the world is on your shoulders. But Stoicism teaches us to broaden our view. Ask yourself, will this matter in a month? In a year? Often, what seems like a monumental problem in the moment becomes insignificant over time. This shift in perspective reduces stress and helps make more balanced decisions. Consider the power of premeditatio malorum, or anticipating the worst. Before launching a product, visualize the challenges that might arise: production delays, negative feedback, technical issues. This exercise isn't meant to discourage you, but to prepare you. By predicting obstacles, you'll already have strategies in mind to handle them, turning potential crises into opportunities for learning. Finally, a practice that might seem simple but is incredibly effective: strategic silence. When confronted with criticism or tough questions, many entrepreneurs feel the need to respond immediately. But Stoicism teaches us that silence can be a powerful tool. Take a deep breath, process the information, and only respond when ready. This pause not only demonstrates emotional control, but also allows you to craft a clearer and more assertive answer. These tools aren't complicated or inaccessible. In fact, Their simplicity is what makes them so effective. They don't require extra time or resources, just a commitment to changing how you approach challenges. And their impact extends beyond the business world. Applying these Stoic principles can transform not only your career, but also your personal life. So, the next time you face a challenging situation, remember, you have an arsenal of Stoic tools at your disposal. Use the dichotomy of control to focus on what matters. Visualize challenges to prepare yourself. Reflect on your actions to grow continuously. And above all, keep perspective. No matter what the future holds, you'll be ready to face it with calm, confidence, and resilience. The fear of failure is one of the greatest barriers any entrepreneur faces. It's there, whispering in critical moments, reminding you of the consequences of every decision. But what if I told you that failure isn't the enemy? That, in fact, it's an essential tool for success? To understand this, let's start with a metaphor. Imagine you're writing the code for your startup's most important software. You spend hours crafting each line, believing it's flawless. But when you run the program, it crashes. Frustrating, right? Yet, the bug in the code isn't the end. It's an opportunity to learn what didn't work, to fix and refine until the program runs smoothly. In this context, failure isn't something to avoid. It's a necessary step toward achieving the final result. This perspective isn't just valid for technology. It applies to every area of our lives, especially in business. Failing is like identifying a bug in the system. Now you know where adjustments are needed. This is something the Stoics understood well. What seems like a setback can actually be a lesson in disguise. Consider this story. Mark, a young entrepreneur, developed an app to connect healthcare professionals. He invested all his savings, but on launch day, the app didn't reach the expected audience. Frustrated, Mark nearly gave up. But then he shifted his perspective. Instead of seeing the launch as a failure, he analyzed it as a learning experience. He realized he had focused too much on complex features and overlooked the user experience. This discovery led him to simplify the app, relaunch it, and eventually turn it into a success. This is the essence of Stoicism, turning failures into tools. Rather than fearing them, embrace them. One of Stoicism's key principles, amor fati, teaches us to accept everything that happens, good or bad, as part of the journey. This doesn't mean seeking out failure deliberately, but being willing to face and learn from it when it arises. Let's delve deeper into this idea with another Stoic practice, reflection. At the end of each project or decision, ask yourself, what went wrong? Why? What can I do better next time? This analysis turns every failure into an opportunity for growth. After all, growth is impossible without obstacles. And the bigger the challenge, the greater the chance to learn. If the fear of failure still lingers, try a Stoic technique called premeditatio malorum, or anticipating the worst. Before making a big decision, imagine the worst-case scenarios. This isn't to discourage you, but to prepare yourself emotionally. When you visualize the worst and understand that you can handle it, fear loses its grip on you. You become more confident, better prepared, and less likely to be paralyzed by anxiety. Another way to reframe fear is to change your internal narrative. Often, we associate failing with being a failure, but failing at something doesn't define who you are. Think of great innovators like Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I haven't failed 10,000 times. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." For Edison, each attempt was a step closer to success. He understood that failure was part of the process. Now, visualize this. You present a bold idea to your team, but it isn't well received. What's your first reaction? Do you feel embarrassed, withdraw, or decide to analyze why your idea didn't work? Perhaps the answer lies in the feedback you received, insights that can make your next attempt stronger. In this case, the initial failure wasn't a setback. It was a stepping stone. What sets successful people apart isn't the absence of failures, but their ability to learn from them. Every failure carries invaluable lessons. It highlights areas that need adjustment, sharpens your skills, and strengthens your resilience. Fear, when reprogrammed, can become an ally. It keeps you alert, but doesn't control you. Remember, failure is like a code that doesn't run. It doesn't mean you're incapable. It simply means you have another chance to fix and try again. If you can reframe this fear, you'll see that failure isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something greater. What's more valuable than your idea? Your resilience to execute it. After all, no matter how brilliant an idea may be, it only comes to life through a mindset strong enough to face inevitable adversities. And as we've seen throughout this discussion, challenges aren't obstacles for those who adopt a Stoic approach. They're part of the journey, building blocks for something greater. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't control the events around us, we have absolute power over how we respond. And in that response lies the strength to transform our lives. Imagine having the clarity to turn setbacks into opportunities, the resilience to embrace challenges, and the focus to prioritize what truly matters. What if you had a simple, practical guide to unlock this mindset and apply it to your daily life? That's exactly what you'll find in the ebook Modern Stoicism in Practice. Packed with actionable insights, this guide will empower you to take control of your thoughts, master your emotions, and achieve a sense of calm in the chaos. The link is in the comments. Take the first step toward a life of purpose, focus, and unshakable confidence. Your transformation begins now. Remember, it doesn't matter where you are today or how daunting the challenge ahead of you seems. Your strength lies in how you choose to react. So, choose to grow, choose to learn, choose to be resilient. After all, what truly shapes success isn't what happens to you, but who you become in the process.